Very pleased to be here with Jen Clark, the author of our new book, How God Calls Us, published by Greenheart Living Press, written by Jen. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Excited.
Yes, yes, we're recording this on our launch day, the first day that the book is out and available to the world. It's also available for free on ebook right now. I want to let everybody know that too, so they can go to Amazon and search for it there. What inspired you to write this book, Jen?
Well, I was actually reading another book called Draw the Circle,
Mm,
and it was a lot about prayer. And in the book, it asked the question, do you think God is bigger than your dreams? And
mm,
I said, yeah, I do. Obviously, I think he's bigger than our dreams, right? And then the next question was, well, then why don't you ask him for your dreams?
mm,
And I paused and I kind of was talking to God in my head at the time. And I was like, well, I live a good life. I'm happy. Like, I have a job that I like. I have two kids that I prayed for and got
mm.
and I felt pretty blessed. So I heard him say, but what about writing a book? Because it has been something that I had always wanted to do. I love to read. I'm a big reader, and I just always said I'd love to be able to write a book.
Mm.
And I was now talking to him and I said, "Well, if you could give me an idea, then I'd happily write it. I'll be obedient and write a book, but I don't have any good ideas, right? I just don't have
Oh.
anything good." And he says, "Well, I have an idea." And he said, "How I've called you throughout your life." And so
Oh,
that's how the book came to be.
oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. And I love that you answered the call. I love that you were in dialogue with God, right?
Yeah.
That you're in communication. And I love this idea too of, it's so funny. Sometimes we ask things from God when we are in crisis or when we
Hmm.
need him or when we need guidance. And sometimes we don't think to ask for a couple things, the dreams,
Hmm.
the positives, right?
Yeah.
And also the everyday stuff. Everyday
Right.
stuff. I'm present to that. It's like, oh, why can't I ask for this in prayer? I need help right now, or I need guidance right now.
Yeah, a
It
lot of
feels
that
like,
I think is having like a relationship with God. So to me,
mm,
God is my friend. I talk to him all the time. So I'm talking
mm,
to him constantly
mm,
throughout the day about random things and whatever. And I have a very, I mean, I truly treat him as a friend. Obviously,
mm,
he's my father. He's Lord of, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. So there's respect there.
mhm,
But I'm myself with him. So I can be, even in the process of writing this book, I thought what I was going to write was a more instructional book, kind of like the book that I was reading that was very prescriptive, right? The major themes of the book are like who's come into your life that brought you closer to God?
mm.
What music have I listened to? How have I heard his voice in prayer and his word? And instead, he told me no. He told me to share my personal story. And my
Mm.
response to him was, "Mhm, no, thank you."
No, thanks. Actually, no.
And I literally
Oh.
was like a 2-year-old. I literally said
Mhm,
no, crossed my arms and said, who, first of all, who cares? Everybody has a story, right? So why is anybody going to care about mine?
mhm,
And second of all, I don't I'm a pretty private person. I don't put a lot on social media. I don't put my life out there for people. So I didn't feel any need necessarily to share any personal facts about my life for the people
mhm,
that might read the book. And so I was like, no, thank you. And he smirked back at me and said, that's how I vision and said, okay then. And he just waited. And I gave it about 2 weeks before I actually started. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this, God, then you're gonna have to help me through this because it's gonna have to be your words, basically. I can't like that's a hard thing for me to share, and I don't really want to do that. So it's your words. I'm putting it in your hands, and that's what I did. But a lot of that, what you were talking about, remembering to pray at the little things, and it's still hard sometimes because, again, why would God care about random things in my life, right? That are
right.
just, like, but he does. And that's part of having the relationship. And that's hopefully what I portrayed in the book, right? Having that relationship and just listening for his voice in all the things that are happening in your day-to-day life,
Mm,
because he's there.
mm. That's so lovely. And I Now in the book, you talk a lot about music, how music had
Mm.
shown up throughout your life and been a way that God has communicated with you and shown up for you. Could you share a
Yeah.
little bit more about that? Because I think
Oh,
that's so cool.
sure.
Yeah.
So I've always loved music. I grew up in the 80s, listened to all the 80s music. Music has always been kind of pivotal to me. Like even I'd share a little bit in the book about how I moved a lot of different places growing up, and there was always this song that would just stick with me in the move that would kind of get me through it. And
Mhm.
so I started noticing that probably when I was around 14 and had moved to Texas, and a girl across the street from me was Christian, and she would play her guitar, and it was the first person I met in Texas. I was from Massachusetts, and it was a whole new world in Texas. And she would start to play her guitar, and she would play Christian like music. I think just
Mhm.
childhood songs. And it kind of stuck with me that, okay, like I'm listening to that. And then I had moved to another place, and I met some friends again that were Christian, and they invited me to a Christian camp. And again, the songs came up, and I learned about Michael W. Smith and started listening. So it was just ways of just him. I really feel like he was calling me. It was just a way of him speaking to me, saying, I'm here through
Mhm.
all the different moves. And like you might leave your friends, but I'm still here. I'm still here.
Mhm.
Right. And as I was, as I got first introduced to the Christian church in the 90s,
Mhm.
um I was, around a lot of kids, not kids, but a lot of people in their 20s, right? I was in my 20s. We were all hanging
Mhm.
out. We would go like listen to a lot of different music. We would attend a music festival that was all Christian artists. And one of the songs that's on my playlist still to this day was a song by Ginny Owens, and it's called Free. And the
Mhm.
woman, actually, the singer and songwriter is blind. And so
Wow.
she was talking about how, like in the song, she's talking about how she's free to dance, even though she has two left feet, and free to sing because
Mhm.
every joyful noise is music to him. And
Mhm.
I just connected that so much because I don't have a good voice. Like nobody wants to hear me sing, trust me. So, but I will sing those songs, and it just made me
Mhm.
smile. Like every time I hear that song, it still makes me smile. I'm like, yep, he doesn't care. And I will pray and I say to God, if you want to hear better sounds coming from this voice, feel free to change my voice at any point in time so I can sing and it's a little more pleasing to you, but I'm going to sing regardless,
Yes,
right?
I love that you're singing full out. Yes.
But
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. And I wanted to talk with you about the process. I love that you
Mm,
already started talking about how you had God in the process with you,
mm,
because I could see evidence of this. You moved this book forward in such a clear, uh, just how do I say this? It was you said you do a thing and then you follow through and you did it. And
mm,
I work with a lot of authors, right, as they're writing, and a lot of people get stuck. They hit a roadblock. It takes much longer than they said they wanted it to. And that's always
mm.
fine, right? I always give grace and know, things take the time that they need to take. But you really move this forward. And that's hard to do when you're writing a book that is personal in nature, especially when you're kind of like, I don't want to write a book personal in nature.
Yeah.
I mean, can you share some of your process? Because I think it
Oh,
could really
sure.
be helpful to people.
So a little bit about me is I'm in IT, like I work in technology. So my job requires me to set deadlines and get other people to follow through on those commitments and those deadlines. So for me, it's about schedule, right? If I set a deadline, I'm working toward that deadline, and and so to me that's what I had to do, right? I set it what I thought was realistic. I mean, in terms of the process, I let God lead it. So
Mm,
a lot of times I worked full time, so I couldn't really do that during the day. Like they're definitely not this type of book anyway, because it required concentration. I think any kind of book or writing requires some sort of concentration. So it was a lot of mornings. So
mhm,
sometimes I would wake up at 4 in the morning because I had an idea and I would just write for an hour. but I wrote in very small blocks of time. It's a relatively short book, so that was easy to do. But I would write for probably max was 2 hours of time
Mm,
on any given day. And sometimes it was at 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes it was like 9 o'clock in the morning. I would have my laptop with me pretty much everywhere. I would
mm,
go. So if my daughter had an appointment and I was driving her, I would sit in my car and I could write if I felt compelled to do so.
mm,
Sometimes I just wasn't there and then I didn't force it. Um, Even in church, if I, when I'm serving, sometimes I have a break
mhm,
between things, and I could go in and just write a little bit
mm,
if something came to mind. So I kept my laptop with me so that I had if an idea came to me, I would do that. I did journal a little bit beforehand, so I would write down songs. I did write down a couple of stories that I definitely wanted to make sure I included. But I really let God lead, and I did a process where I wrote the facts first and then had to go
mm,
back through and talk and work through some of the emotions of it because it was so personal. To
mm,
me, it was easier to do it that way. Um,
mhm.
and you know,
And
it
how
was
did
good.
you, so yeah, so I'm hearing a few things. I hear you let God lead in the
Yeah.
process. This definitely sounds like um, you prioritize it as your main priority.
Hmm.
That's what it sounds
Definitely.
like because it was
Oh,
always
definitely.
present. Laptop's always with you.
Hmm.
You're always, this is the thing. And that you set a deadline and you really gave that deadline. People can relate to deadlines in different ways.
Yeah.
But you are relating to it as this is a real commitment that I'm following through on, and I'm going to move things around to make it happen. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
that those are the things that I'm hearing there that I think could be helpful to folks. And let me see. There was something else that you said that I want to make sure we go back to in the process. Oh, you mentioned the emotions. And
Mm.
because as this comes up, as you're writing about that, you wrote from things of your whole childhood, which there was a
Hmm.
lot that you went through, and in
Hmm.
adolescence, really a lot of change, and you faced a lot, and then in adulthood, right? The whole thing.
Yep. Yep.
So, what did you do to take care of yourself and your emotions as you were going through the writing process?
Um, I let myself feel the emotions. Like I didn't I so for me, I'd worked through a lot of the trauma of my past. So I had gone to therapy, I had gone through, all the things to kind of get through. I have no ill will toward anybody that was involved in my past. I have no, um, I pray for people daily. Like, it might have hurt me in my past. It's not something that's kind of forefront of my mind. But when
Mm,
you're writing, it does bring up those emotions. So I did let myself feel the emotions, right? And if that meant I sat and cried for a little bit, or as I was writing, I was crying, that's okay. I mean, that was just the process. Um, I would say it was not my favorite part of writing the book.
mhm, mhm,
Is writing all about my emotions. It's not something I typically, you know, my life has been what it has been. Everybody's been through trauma. I've been through my share of trauma. I do feel that you know, I feel like that we're called to look at the good in things and take what you can for that. We're not promised an easy life, so
mhm,
you just continue to move forward. So I tend not to dwell on my emotions, but it was emotional writing it, so I just
mhm,
allowed myself to feel it and move on.
mhm,
Um, it wasn't, people have asked me, was this cathartic or in any
mhm,
kind of way like healing? And my answer really is probably shocking to most, but no.
mhm,
And that's partly because I had already dealt with it. I didn't
mhm,
really want to write it. This was what I felt like God wanted me to do because for
mhm,
whatever reason, it's through connection or something else that somebody needs to hear it. So I did it as a form of obedience rather than a form of
mhm,
healing for myself. And so that's why I think I could just say, well, I'm going to let myself feel the feelings as I'm writing and then continue on and see what he wants me to do next.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredible because I hear a lot of people that they're writing for a therapeutic purpose and that
Hmm.
is their intention, right? And that and it sounds like you've done a lot of work already to get to this place. And so you were allowing yourself to process things, which is really beautiful that you did that as part of the process and you had the skills to do that, right? Sometimes people are hit with that and they don't know how to handle it when these
Yeah,
things come up. And so your intention was different. Your intention
it
was,
was.
I'm answering the call to do this, whatever this looks like, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and yeah, and that you followed through is really so admirable. And I know that people will be able to learn a lot from your story because you have been through it in many
Hmm.
different ways. And so it can be a light for people that might be going through it themselves, that, with
Yeah,
difficulty with family or and anything, that you, they don't have to feel like they're doing it on their own. There's
yeah,
another way to do things, right? And
absolutely.
um, is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners today?
No, I really think I hope that the book finds its way into the hands of the people that need to hear the story and that can connect to the story. And I
Mhm.
really just want them to know that like God is there and God is listening and he is knocking on the door, right? He is knocking on the door whether you know him now or you don't. Um, and all it takes is opening that door and building that relationship with him because he's not just your father, but he is your friend. And so he is there for you.
Mm.
And that's hopefully what you can read in my story, right? That he was there through even when I didn't know him and certainly there now. Um, and I hope that that finds it that you find that as you're reading that to the reader. So
Yeah.
that's my hope.
Oh. Well, thank you for answering the call. Even if it
Yeah,
was kicking and screaming a little bit, you did a
a
beautiful
little bit.
job. And so anyone that's listening to this, the book is available in paperback and in ebook on Amazon. You can find it very easily by searching How God Calls Us by Jen Clark. And it is available for free, the ebook, from Tuesday, January 13th through Saturday, January 17th. And please download, leave a review for Jen and for the book. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks so much for your help.